In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, welcome to another session of Finding God. Ooh, what's my head doing? Welcome back after a hiatus of a couple of weeks. I was in Dubai, and then Abu Dhabi, and then back in England, and then I recently returned back to Montreal. I don't know what the light is doing. My skin looks so weird. But anyway, yeah, I was out for about a month, and because I was traveling, I couldn't keep up with these weekly sessions with the Quran, and I wanted to be in one place. I didn't want to just do them very quickly, so I wanted to be in one place while I did them. But now I'm back home, and I can get back into the rhythm. Today we'll be talking about chapter 57, Surah Luqman, which is about the great sage Luqman. I'm going to read bits and bobs from his the Wikipedia about this, and I've read a few other resources just to give a brief context. It's about the sage Luqman and his advice to his son, and other um, context around it. And it's, if you recall from chapter 56, Surah Safat, and the ones before it, we're now in the middle Meccan period, right? So Muhammad has been a prophet for a few years now. The society already knows, oh, there goes Muhammad, that prophet, that person who thinks he knows the right way to worship, the right religion, unlike us who are pagans or have a pantheon and are polytheists. That gentleman over there who believes this, oh, there he goes, and there go his followers and friends. So society has this cleavage in it already. This rupture, this fracture exists in the society already. We're in that period. So now this chapter is revealed to Muhammad, peace be upon him. And it's divided in a structure which is identified as the ring structure, which means that it's a half and half with a chiastic middle. It's a rhyme, or it's a meter type of structure, and it says that verses 1 to 11 are about the omniscience and self-sufficiency of God. Then 12 to 15 about rules and guidelines, and Luqman giving advice to his son. 16 to 17 is the chiastic middle, and then it goes back to rules and guidelines, then moderation, then omniscience and self-sufficiency of God. So it comes full circle. I think that's why it's called the ring structure, and that's just how it communicates. So please take some time to also read it in the Arabic. It has two large footnotes, which I'll be referring to because they're both very, very important. And I'm just going to start as it is right now. Oops, why isn't it working? Bear with me. Oh yes, I have to fix this. 1 second, please. There we go. It should show now. Yes. Okay. So I'm just going to read through it as I always do. I'm going to ponder upon words which I don't understand, and I'm going to read the footnotes when I arrive at them. The first one essentially is at verse 6. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Alif Lam Mim, one of those couplets or triplets of letters which only God knows the meaning of, we don't. These are the verses of the wise book, the Quran, a guide and a mercy for the muhsinun, the good doers. The word comes back again. Those who perform prayer, as-salat in Arabic is prayer, and give zakat, and they have faith in the hereafter with certainty. Zakat is charity, and it's a very particular type of charity because the amount is predetermined, and if I'm not mistaken, if I'm mistaken, please correct me, because there may be deeper research on this, but the amount is 2.5%, and every earning Muslim is supposed to give that. It's 2.5%. These aren't taxes, and these aren't khairat, which is other types of charity, but this is zakat, which is mandated. It's one of the 5 pillars of Islam, with Tawheed, how do you translate Tawheed into English? Believe in the oneness of God, prayer, which is salat, zakat, which is charity, roza, which is, or thawm, which is fasting, and then the pilgrimage. These are the 5 pillars of Islam. So it's a very important one. So those who perform prayer and give this charity and have faith in the hereafter with certainty, these are the good doers. Such are on the guidance from their Lord, and such are the successful. And of mankind is he who purchases idle talk, which is music and singing, to mislead men from the path of God without knowledge, and takes it, the path of God, or the verses of Quran, by way of mockery. For sure there will be a humiliating torment in the hellfire. So this is giving an example of what I'm just going to narrate in the footnote. But to preface this, I have to elaborate the context that in Islam, music and singing are generally not supported. For the 2 billion Muslims in the world, if you're all watching this, I'm sure you already know, but I'm saying this for the uninitiated. Music and singing isn't generally encouraged in Islam. In fact, some or many scholars and believers would go and tell you that it's completely forbidden. There are others who make cases for it, but if you are erring on the side of caution, and if you're trying to be careful, in Islam, you stay away from music and singing. There is a way to do it. For example, the Quran, while we pray, is recited. You can say it has a melodic or a sonorous quality, but we don't consider that singing. Some might come and say, well, that's a type of singing too, and fair enough. Another type of singing that is allowed is one that is without music. So the use of musical instruments is opposed much more than just singing melodically. So there's this thing called a nasheed or naat or hamd, and you have the hymns or gospels for the Islamic faith. So you could certainly do that, and there's a great many nasheed artists or singers, for lack of a better word, who do just that. But I'm just going to dive into the footnote. Hellfire, right. What is said regarding the one who regards an alcoholic drink lawful to drink and calls it by another name? So alcohol, music, singing, all these things that are forbidden, if you're doing them, you are going against the religion. That's the point here. Narrated by Abu Amir or Abu Malik al-Ash'ari that he heard the Prophet saying, from among my followers, there will be some people who will consider illegal sexual intercourse, the wearing of silk, the drinking of alcoholic drinks, and the use of musical instruments as lawful. And from them there will be some who will stay near the side of a mountain, and in the evening the shepherd will come to them with the sheep and ask them for something, but they will say to him, return to us tomorrow. God will destroy them during the night and will let the mountain fall on them, and he will transform the rest of them into monkeys and pigs, and they will remain so till the day of resurrection. This is from Sahih al-Bukhari 75590. My Lord. Well, the punishment is, I didn't expect that punishment, although I'm no one to criticize or speak against what God decides best. That is God's decision. But that is the punishment. So the punishment, I'm not focusing on the severity of it. I'm using the severity to indicate how unlawful these things are. So illegal sexual intercourse, which means sex before marriage, wearing of silk, drinking of alcohol, and the use of musical instruments. These are big no-nos in Islam. I haven't really unpacked why the wearing of silk is problematic. One reason we could say, or we've understood, is that silk is a very prestigious and valuable garment, and in Jannah or in heaven, you're supposed to be wearing such graceful, elegant material. But there may be other reasons which I haven't unpacked. Illegal sexual intercourse itself is self-evident. I understand that this may offend the Western civilization, but come on, look at yourself. Look at what you're doing. I'm a conservative, so I'm never going to be on the side of rampant illegal sexual intercourse. Never. Drinking of alcoholic drinks as well it is very clear that a loss of inhibition and a loss of control leads to a lot of problems. A lot of problems in interpersonal relationships, sexual assault, and not just misconduct, sexual violation, and so many others. Physical violence, domestic violence, so many things are related to alcohol. And one must wonder, certainly, is the buzz really that great that you're willing to risk all of that? And for us, it isn't. So we don't do it. And in the same line of thought, they've mentioned musical instruments. So we can make the argument that music can make you lose control. We've seen that happen. Listening to it repeatedly, because music enters your mind in a different manner than prose, right? That's why we have poetry. That's why we have music, because you can just let go of your rational faculties and just sink into it. Maybe it's related to that. But the point here is in this verse. Those of mankind who support all of this, they will have the humiliating torment. Sorry that it took a large digression, but I think it was necessary. And the next footnote is verse 14. Okay. And when our verses of the Quran are recited, such a person, he turns away in pride, and as if he heard them not, as if there were deafness in his ears, so announced to him a painful torment. That's true. And may I just say, that's true even today. And it's not just Islam, it's all faith or all rationality or all points of sensibility. If you explain them or share them to somebody who is off the right path, who's on the wrong path, it's deaf to their ears. Try convincing a smoker not to smoke. Just try it. Just try it. Try getting an alcoholic to stop drinking. It's really hard. And you can make similar cases for so many people who have similar beliefs. Verily, those who believe in Islam and do righteous good deeds, for them are gardens of delight. To abide therein, it is a promise of God in truth, and He is the Almighty, the All-Wise. Yes, He is. He has created the heavens without any pillars that you see. I don't see any. Has set on the earth firm mountains, lest it should shake with you. Yes, that's true. Yes, I think a few chapters ago the argument was made again that the mountains are like anchors holding the earth together, and it's just a very interesting conception of how we visualize the world. Because when we see mountains, we say, "Oh, mountains came through tectonic movement," but in a different conception, they're holding the earth down. It's very interesting. Just like volcanoes help cool the earth, even though they're hot. And He has scattered therein moving living creatures of all kinds, and we send down water from the sky, and we cause plants of every goodly kind to grow therein. Yes, this is true. Now we're at the stage of God's, we're explaining how wonderful God is. This is the creation of God, to show me that which those whom you worship besides Him have created. That's a fair point. I would say that Abraham could have simply said this. Muhammad could have said this. Every single prophet who has come against polytheists in debate would have said this. Look, my Lord has made all of this. That's what my Lord says. What does your lords, what do they say? What have they made? It's a fair point. One can always dive into the argument of the inanimate versus the invisible. That's a whole different argument. But what I'm saying is, this keeps coming again and again. Well, my Lord made all of this. What did your Lord make? And we even today, we still believe this. There's no one to come and question, because then it goes into the atheist versus the religious argument, and then is the prime mover, and then it's the unseen and the evidence and the absence. It's that other argument. But the point here is to say, our Lord made all of this. What did your Lord make? And they don't really have an answer, because they would be ascribing things. Oh, okay, you're the Lord of fertility, or you're the Lord of war. The Lord of war can make weapons of war, but he can't make mountains, and so forth. So it didn't build up to that level. Nay, the Zalimun, the polytheists, wrongdoers, and those who do not believe are in plain error. And indeed, we bestowed upon Luqman hikmah, wisdom, and religious understanding, saying, "Give thanks to God, and whoever gives thanks, he gives thanks for the good of his own self. And whoever is unthankful, then verily, God is all rich, free of all needs, worthy of all praise." So, but the point here is this is the introduction of the titular character. This chapter is named after this sage, this wise figure who gives some advice to his son. This is the person who was bestowed upon with wisdom and religious understanding, and he was thankful to God, and he's being used as an example. And remember when Luqman said to his son, when he was advising him, "Oh my son, join not in worship others with God. Verily, joining others in worship with God is a great wrong indeed, or zulm indeed." And we have enjoined on man to be dutiful and good to his parents. His mother bore him in weakness and hardship upon weakness and hardship. And his weaning is in 2 years. Give thanks to me and to your parents. Unto me is the final destination. Now this last section, unto me is the final destination, is something that I sometimes think about. Because God is talking about parents. Your mother bore weakness and hardship to bring you into the world. And after 2 years, weaning is when you move from the breast to other milk and other diets. You can start early as well, but fully. Readings into give thanks to me and to your parents. Unto me is the final destination. I find this very interesting. It's a very interesting literary device because you're thinking about the beginning. You're thinking about where you came from. You're thinking about who brought you into this world, like the avenue and the source. And then the source is saying, I'm also at the end. Unto me is the final destination. I find it lyrically a very interesting technique. I don't know if we use this technique anymore today, but lyrically it's very interesting to say, oh, I'm the largest and I'm this and I'm that and I'm also the smallest. Or I'm the largest and I've built everything, and when you decompose, you will come to me. It's very interesting. We don't see this contrasting exposition done today, or maybe I haven't. And the footnote says, narrated by Aisha, that she said, "Oh God's messenger, we consider jihad as the best deed. Should we not fight in God's cause?" I have discussed jihad before. I'm not going to discuss it again. It does not mean what the westernized media has made it to mean. It's not only going in killing people and infidels. Jihad is in multiple levels. The first jihad and the hardest one is against your own self, your own weaknesses, your own shortcomings. We've discussed this in a lot of details. I'm not going to dive into that again. And on that point, the Prophet said, the best jihad for women is Hajj Mabrur, the pilgrimage to Mecca, which is performed according to the Prophet's Sunnah or legal ways and is accepted by God. Sahih al-Bukhari 31861. There is no denying that in Islam, men and women are substantially different. They are. I understand if it upsets the sensibilities of many people today. But Islam is a conservative religion. Islam has existed for nearly 1400 years. It does not pander to today's woke sensibilities. It does not align with parts of them, and that's perfectly fine. So if somebody would raise the criticism, well, why can't women do jihad? Well, you can. You certainly can. But the Prophet is saying that the best approach for women is to perform the Hajj. I don't know why this footnote is part of this verse? That I can't tell you. I really can't. It also says, look at verse. I'm just going to take a deep dive, just so there's no mistake here. It says also look at the footnote of verse 13 in chapter 17. So I'm just going to take a quick look. Here we go. Okay. So it says, chapter 17, verse 13, narrated by Ibn Masud, a man asked the Prophet, what deeds are the best? The Prophet said, to perform the compulsory prayer at their stated fixed times, to be good and dutiful to one's own parents, and to participate in jihad in God's cause. I would have said that if you're mentioning the second verse in the Quran, the second point as reference, you should have mentioned the first one, not just named it, because sometimes people will skip it. Now it makes sense. You're asking about the best deeds, especially, and you're mentioning parents, so that is why it's mentioned. Prayer at the associated times, respectful, dutiful to one's parents, and to participate in jihad in God's cause. So the Prophet's wife asks, should we not fight in God's cause? He said the best jihad for women is Hajj Mabrur, which is performed according to the Prophet's Sunnah. Now it makes sense. Thank you, deep dive. I'm grateful I was able to add something to it. But yeah, this is the main idea. In Islam, men and women are substantially different. They have substantially different roles and duties, not responsibilities, duties. They have different duties, and they are supposed to abide by them. Of course, you can have the exception which does not fit the norm, so you're supposed to go and take the other's duties. But normally, they have duties. And we will dive into this in a lot of detail when I reach chapter 4. Not chapter 4. Chapter 4 in terms of arrangement, not in terms of revelation. That's much farther, or Surah Nisa. So when we reach that, we can expand that further. But if they both strive with you to make you join in worship with me, others, that of which you have no knowledge, then obey them not, but behave with them in the world kindly, and follow the path of him who turns to me in repentance and obedience. Then to me will be your return, and I shall tell you what you used to do. This is referring to your parents. So in Islam, we're supposed to be very dutiful, very respectful, hold them in incredibly high regard. And I ascribe to this conception, teaching, philosophy fully. For me, no human being is more important than my parents, not my spouse, not my children. I don't have them now, but when I do have them, not my spouse, not my children, not my grandchildren, not my siblings, not my friends, no, not my professors, not my employers, no, not my clients. My parents are the most important people to me. I've walked out of 2 meetings with 2 different prime ministers because my father was on call. Both times, and he called and I was like, I have to go. And I left the meeting. It was a 45-second phone call. Hi, I'm here. I'm doing this. Yeah, I'll call you later. But I would never say, oh, my dad's calling. No, I can call him back later. I don't play that game. And in Islam, that is the idea. But if your parents are telling you not to worship God, Allah, the one and only, the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and last, if your parents are telling you to do that, then obey them not, but behave with them kindly. Even then, even when they are giving you instructions which are emphatically, vehemently against the teachings of Islam, don't listen to them, but still be kind to them. I find that so wonderful, because they brought you into the world. They were the vessel of you in the world, and I believe that. This is Luqman saying all this to his son, by the way. Oh, my son, if it be anything equal to the weight of a grain of a mustard seed, and though it be in a rock or in the heavens or in the earth, God will bring it forth. Verily, God is subtle in bringing out that grain, well aware of its place. That's so true. God can be so incredibly subtle that we really can't see it. He's subtle and he has incredible infinite foresight. It's just omniscience really means omniscience because God sees everything. Oh, my son, Akim as-salat, which means perform the prayer enjoin on people al-maruf, which is Islam and all that is good, and forbid people from al-munkar, which is the disbelief in the oneness of God, or ideas like polytheism of all kind, evil and bad, and bear with patience whatever befalls you. Verily, these are some of the important commandments ordered by God with no exemption. This verse is a very important verse. I believe one can even memorize this in Arabic because it covers so much. Perform the prayer, enjoin on people all that is good, and forbid them from that which is bad, and bear with patience whatever befalls you. These are some of the most important teachings that you can follow. Isn't that incredible? And turn not your face away from men with pride, nor walk in insolence through the earth. Verily God likes not any arrogant boaster, which is true. Arrogance is incredibly off-putting. We all know that, but we're all guilty of committing it in some manner. And Luqman is saying to his son, look, do all these great things, pray and enjoin that which is good, forbid that which is bad, and bear with patience that which is thrown upon you, and never walk with arrogance, and never be insolent like, oh, look at me, I'm this great big thing. And be moderate, or show no insolence in your walking, lower your voice. Verily, the harshest of all voices is the braying of the asses or the donkeys. Yes, that's true. Have you ever heard a donkey bray? It's a sound that almost has a smell. That's how I describe it. Because I've heard it, and suddenly I start smelling donkey dung. Oh, I'm like, good Lord, shut up. That's been my reaction every time I've heard a donkey bray. I remember particularly an incident in Lahore in Pakistan where I was sitting on a rickshaw. How do you translate rickshaw in English? It's you call it a tuk-tuk or something else. But I was sitting in it, I was going away, and I saw a donkey braying, and I said, good Lord, what is that sound? And that sound started affecting me, get me away from that sound. It's really not a pleasant sound. See you not, or don't you see, O men, that God has subjected for you whatsoever is in the heavens and whatsoever is in the earth, and has completed and perfected his graces upon you, both apparent, which is Islam, and the lawful pleasures of this world, including health, good looks, and so forth, and hidden one's faith in God of Islam, knowledge, wisdom, guidance for doing righteous deeds, and also the pleasure and the delight of the hereafter in paradise. Yet of mankind is he who disputes about God without knowledge or guidance or a book giving light. It's a big verse. Let me simplify it. You're saying that God has given you bounties and pleasures, graces, which can be seen, like your looks or your health or money and so forth, and those that cannot be seen, like knowledge or wisdom or faith and so forth. And whatever comes in the hereafter, because we can't see the hereafter while being in the here present, so we will get to the hereafter when we're there, right? Yet of mankind is he who disputes about God without knowledge or guidance or a book giving light. So again, this structure, something positive, and then at the end something negative. Yes, all this positive, but of the mankind are people who create dispute about this without any knowledge. It's an interesting structure that they use. And when it is said to these people, follow that which God has sent down, they say, nay, we shall follow that which we found our fathers for. Would they do so even if Satan invites them to the torment of the fire? Now, this is interesting. Just a few verses ago, it explained that you should love your parents indiscriminately above every other living being, and be dutiful and be caring and everything. But don't follow their advice if they're guiding you away from the path. It reaches to exactly this point where people of the time and times before Moses, Abraham, maybe Noah, maybe others, have said the same thing. I'm following what my father used to follow. What's wrong with that? And you say, well, no, I have a book, or I have a God, and I have a message. Well, no, but my father said this. So that's the discussion is here. This is the discussion. Parental lineage in ideology or monotheistic religion brought by the book, brought by a God and a prophet. I think that's the debate. And whosoever submits his face to God, submits his face means submits fully, while he is a muhsin, a good doer, which means performs good deeds totally for God's sake without any show off or to gain praise or fame, and does them in accordance with the Sunnah of God's Messenger Muhammad, peace be upon him, then he has grasped the most trustworthy handhold. La ilaha illallah, none of the right has to be worshipped but God, and to God return all matters of decision. Sometimes in these verses, the brackets are so large. And whosoever submits his face to God while he is a muhsin, and to God return all matters for decision. I think this would be the correct. No, then he has grasped the most trustworthy handhold, and to God return all matters for decision. Sometimes they expand the verse. That's why it could be a bit confusing. And whoever disbelieves the opposite, let not his disbelief grieve you, O Muhammad. To us is their return, and we shall inform them what they have done. Verily, God is the all-knower of what is in the breast of men. We've discussed this verse many times in many chapters before. We let them enjoy for a little while, then in the end we shall oblige them to enter a great torment. How polite. What a wonderful way to say, I'm going to really destroy you. We shall oblige them to enter a great torment. Please, after you, the flames are waiting. It's such an interesting way of saying it. And if you, O Muhammad, ask them who has created the heavens and the earth, they will certainly say, God. Say, all the praises and thanks be to God, but most of them know not. That doesn't make sense. How does this make sense? If you ask them who made the heavens and the earth, and if they're saying God, yep, it says the same in the Arabic. And if you ask them who has created the heavens and the earth, they will certainly say, Allah. Say, all the praises and thanks to be to Allah, but most of them know not. I'm troubled with this one. It's almost like a circular logic, or I think the point God is making is that they would know it, but they wouldn't thank God for making it. Is that the point? Or maybe they don't know it. I'm not satisfied with my understanding of this verse. Okay, maybe I can come back to it. Maybe I'm missing something. If somebody could guide me better, maybe I'm not reading it right. Okay. To God belongs whatsoever is in the heaven and the earth. Verily, God, He is Al-Ghani, the rich, free of all needs, worthy of all praise. And if all the trees on the earth were pens, and the sea were ink, wherewith to write, with 7 seas behind it to add to its supply, yet the words of God would not be exhausted. Verily, God is Almighty, all-wise. Oh, what a brilliant, brilliant verse. I love when God uses the trees and the earth and the seas. It just shows the way we see pen and paper. That's how God sees the earth and the universe, because He built it, because He created it. The people who claim that Muhammad, peace be upon him, was just a poet who went to a cave and wrote these wonderful, beautiful verses, it is inconceivable that a human being can look at the earth in this manner. It is very, very difficult to grow up in a desert, to live in those societies, to do that thing, and suddenly one day decide to write these verses, which look, even today, we can't do it. We can't even conceive of conceptual characters which don't have a face, Even Jabba the Hutt has a face. Even Dormammu has a face. Our imagination is limited. But here, in a book written 1400 years ago, it says, well, if all the trees on the earth were pens and the sea were ink to write with seven seas behind it as supply, the words would not be exhausted. I love the imagery. Imagine picking out a tree, dipping it in the sea and writing with it. As humans, we don't conceive that. It's so interesting. The creation of you all and the resurrection of you all are only as the creation and resurrection of a single person. Verily, God is the all-hearer, all-seer. Oh, this is beautiful. See, and now we're getting, remember I told you it's a cyclical pattern. It's like it comes all the way around, the ring structure. So now we're going back to all that is wonderful about the Lord Almighty. In the middle, there was Luqman, and there were things that Muhammad, peace be upon him, was taking from lessons and applying them, and then back to the omniscience and the greatness of the Almighty. And the creation of you all and the resurrection of you all are only as a single person. It's so interesting. But it's true. Imagine going to a Toyota or a Tesla factory. If you can make one car, you can make 1 billion. If you can make one shoe, you can make 1 billion. You can make 1 trillion because you've made the blueprint for one, and then you can just play around with it. So, and now imagine you have the greatest factory in the world, and what you're making can be made instantly. And you just press a button, make, and it makes. Or you say, kun and fayakun, say, and it is done. And all of them are different. And now we're seeing that even with our creation, artificial intelligence can do this for you conceptually for now, but very soon it will be physically real. That you say, build me 15 different models of houses, and within 5 seconds, they'll be there. It's inevitable. So the Lord can simply do that. And to the Lord, making all of us and making one of us is the same. I love that. See you not, O Muhammad, or don't you see, O Muhammad, that God merges the night into the day and merges the day into the night and has subjected the sun and the moon, each running its course for a time appointed, and that God is all aware of what you do. The merging is explained in the brackets, which is another thing that I love. No 2 days are alike. Today might be a second longer than tomorrow, because we're going towards the winter, and yesterday might be a second longer than today. No 2 days and nights are alike. It's always slightly different. We create clocks and watches to approximate what we see, but in fact, it's not always exactly the same. The machine shows the same time, but the day isn't exactly the same. So that's the point being made here. And the sun and the moon have their appointed parts, and they're moving, and God put them there and said, this is what you're going to do from now on. You're going to stay here, go around the North Star, you're going to go around the earth is going around. That's the structure. That is because God, He is the truth, and that which they invoke beside Him is al-batil. Batil is a lovely word in Arabic. It means falsehood, and it has other derivations with similar meanings. Satan and all other false deities, and that God, He is the Most High, the Most Great. Again, that structure. God is the truth, and this is the lie. It's throughout this chapter. It is a structure of opposites. Even the ring structure, the way it is constructed, is a structure of opposites, and even the verses. I find this truly interesting. See you not that the ships sail through the sea by God's grace, that He may show you of His signs. Verily, in this are signs for every patient, grateful person. And when a wave covers them like shades, like clouds or the mountains of seawater, they invoke God, making the invocations for Him only. But when He brings them safe to land, there are among them those that stop in between belief and disbelief. But none denies our signs except every perfidious ingrate. They're harsh, but okay. I'm just going to open up the footnote to see. No. This is true. When the waves go so high that you're afraid of them sinking the sea, sinking you in the sea. You say, oh God, save me. Oh Allah, save me. And then when God brings you to safe land, you say, well, yeah, I saved myself. I didn't need any help. Human nature. O mankind, be afraid of your Lord by keeping your duty to him and avoiding all evil, and fear a day when no father can avail aught for his son, nor a son avail aught for his father. Aught is another word for anything. Verily the promise of God is true. Let not then this worldly present life deceive you, nor let the chief deceiver deceive you about God. The chief deceiver, which I have to say is a wonderful name for Satan, is Satan, or the devil, or Lucifer, or Iblis, or whatever word you use for him. Chief deceiver. It's so lovely. But this is true. That day will come when your mother will look at you like, look, bro, you do you, I'm going to do me. That day is on its way. Verily God, with him alone is the knowledge of the hour. He sends down the rain and knows that which is in the wombs. Again, I've said this again. Sends down the rains is a global scale. Global. Clouds, rain. And knows what is in the womb is the most personal relationship one can have with another person. Even sexual intercourse is less than this, because although that may be ecstatic or euphoric, you're not fully inside the other person. Here, a person is literally being grown inside of their mother. And I think previously it was also, in another chapter, it was also mentioned simply that the rain comes and babies are in your wombs. It's such an interesting way to balance different scales. This is so intimate. The mother and the child, and the rains. Oh, it's amazing. No person knows what he will earn tomorrow, and no person knows in what land he will die. Verily, God is all knower, all aware of things. And as far as I know, this is the last verse of the chapter. Thank you so much. Wow, that did take a while, but it kind of makes the point. Surah Luqman is exactly this. It does exactly this. There is only a few takeaways here, but I will come back to verse 25. I'm not fully satisfied with how it's written in that manner, but I will come back to it. But yeah, I think this particular chapter was an exercise in balance and rings and structure and opposites, and I think it's fantastically written, fantastically. And I love the story of Luqman, the way it was mentioned and the advice he was giving his son. So these are rhetorical devices. So you could simply say to somebody, eat an apple, it's good for you. Or you could use an example or a rhyme, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Or you could say, there was once a woman walking on the street and she felt faint in the heat, in the summer heat of July in India. At that very time, a young boy was walking past her and he handed her an apple. As she bit into the apple, she felt better and she said to the boy, "Thank you, my boy, for helping me." And the boy said to her, "May you always have the opportunity to eat an apple before you feel faint." The end. Sorry, I just made it up off the cuff. But the point is, when you tell something through a parable or a story or refer to someone else, it has a different impact. So jump back to 615 AD, around about that time. And Muhammad has been preaching for a couple of years, or his friends and followers are also preaching. And they say, well, do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. And the pagans or the Meccans are saying, no, we're not doing it. And then suddenly you say, let me tell you about this guy called Luqman. And say, oh, who is he? Well, Luqman was this very wise fellow. And he told his son these things. So see, Luqman told him too. And remember, a few months ago, we told you that Moses said the same, and Noah said the same. And Abraham said the same. And so many others said the same. That is a rhetorical device. I think that's what's being used here. But I'm going to stop. I've been talking for almost over 3/4 of an hour, and I need to rest myself as well. But thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful weekend. Have a wonderful Friday, and I shall see you next week.